Convicted felon Donald Trump recently shared this on his failing social media app True Social, where he tries to take credit for President Joe Biden's accomplishments on insulin pricing, claiming, of course, incorrectly, that it was he and his administration that provided low insulin pricing for millions of Americans. So let's take a look at this claim, shall we? Now, Trump is really good at these bullshit sandwiches, where he has a haze of truth sandwiched between bullshit. That's exactly what he does in this post, where he claims that he got low insulin pricing for millions of Americans. Now, yes, it's true. Donald Trump did pass an executive order in July of 2020 that did two things. First, Trump directed health centers that get discounts on drugs through a program called 340B to pass on those savings onto low-income patients. Now, this specifically included insulin and EpiPens. Second, the order mandated that insulin and EpiPens be provided at discounted prices for low-income individuals who either don't have insurance or who have high deductible plans. The intent was to make these more affordable to people who might otherwise struggle to afford them. Now, while he should get credit for trying, it was ultimately unsuccessful. And the reason for that was it had a limited reach. The order only applied to certain health centers. It didn't help the majority of people, millions of Americans who needed low-price insulin. There were also implementation problems, meaning it was difficult for these health centers to adjust their systems to pass on these discounts. And there wasn't any enforcement to make sure that these health centers were passing on these discounts and following the rules properly. The order also didn't address the issue of high prices set by drug companies, which ultimately kept insulin prices high overall. And remember, he did this via an executive order, which are notoriously prone to challenges and are easier to change or cancel, which ultimately made it less effective in the long run. So TLDR, or W, the order was too narrow, hard to implement, didn't address the root cause of high prices, and wasn't a permanent solution. Now, when President Joe Biden got into office, he paused all of Trump's executive orders, which included his failed order to try and lower the cost of insulin. And then he got to work. And in 2022, Democrats and Joe Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act. And the Inflation Reduction Act set a $35 a month cap on the price of insulin for those on Medicare. And it also allowed Medicare to negotiate prices for expensive drugs like insulin. And Biden also shamed insulin makers for price gouging, and they eventually lowered their costs too. And the law also made drug pricing more transparent and supported state initiatives for those who wanted to create programs to cap insulin pricing. And that's why President Joe Biden's efforts were actually successful in providing low-cost insulin to millions of Americans. Biden's actions were more successful because it applied to more people, it had the strength of the law behind them, and it allowed for price negotiation, as well as including additional support measures to make sure that those savings passed on to patients. And so Trump is flat out lying as he tries to take credit for Biden's success. And although Trump tried, he failed, as he usually does, and he's also promised to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act if he takes office again. And so if you're one of the beneficiaries of low-cost insulin or low-cost drugs from Biden's successful law, do you really want to take that chance?